Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm truly grateful to have you here with us on the healing path, where we explore the many ways we can heal, both physically and emotionally. Today, I'm really honoured to be speaking with someone whose work has absolutely touched countless lives, Jenny Johnston, a leading teacher and practitioner of Quantum EFT. Now, Jenny's approach goes far beyond traditional tapping. She blends EFT, which I love, with quantum principles, with subconscious work and deep energetic shifts that really do help people release the old emotional patterns, helps heal past experiences, and step into a new version of themselves. Her work is gentle, it's really powerful, and for many people, it's truly life-changing. Whether you're here to understand your own emotions more deeply, or perhaps you want to release old pain, or simply explore new ways to support your healing journey, truly you're in exactly the right place. Jenny, thank you for being here with us today. I'm really excited to dive into this conversation with you.
It's great to be here, Molly. Thanks for asking me.
For those who are new to it, how would you describe quantum EFT and how does it differ from traditional EFT or tapping?
So there's a lot more intuition and calling upon your guides and your higher self and the multi-dimensional layers of our DNA. So we work traditionally with our three-dimensional DNA, which is our genes. However, that other, what scientists used to call junk DNA, we have discovered is our DNA is held in a quantum or multi-dimensional state. And it's this DNA that holds all of our history, basically, our history through all of our lifetimes. So it's more on a soul level that we're working. We're working to find out where patterns or negative behaviors have come from, not only in this life, but also if at a soul level it's still here, then where has it originated from at a soul level? So we're looking at not only this lifetime, but our ancestry. So in our three-dimensional DNA, we also hold generations of DNA and traumas, perhaps, that have been passed on or even lived, because we know that as a soul, we reincarnate in soul groups and often in family soul groups, so that you or your client may have been their great-grandmother or somebody in their past in the family, so that you get a double whammy sort of thing where your multi-dimensional DNA remembers it as a lived experience, as well as you get it passed down through your three-dimensional DNA, your ancestral DNA, because that trauma was held and passed down through the DNA, whereas you might have already lived it as well in your past lives, in your family.
It's amazing, isn't it? I don't know, it's incredibly deep, and I don't think you could get to this by yourself, could you? I think you would need
It's
something
very
like
difficult,
quantum
and
EFT.
yeah, it's very instructional, quantum EFT, where we are claiming our power as beings of light with full free choice. And we're asking our guides and higher self and our multidimensional DNA, where does this come from originally? And then when we go there, often we get flashes of a scene or a feeling that it's very ancient, and then we start tuning into that. But it's hard to do that if you're tapping for yourself, if you're the practitioner for yourself. It's if you're working with a certified quantum EFT practitioner, then they have the experience to hold the space and to allow their client then to go to a deeper space. And we spend a lot of time tapping on the collarbone point, which is for fear, because we want to release any fear-based activity occurring magnetically in our electromagnetic system. And we also call in our guides and higher self in order to not only work out where this comes from, but to find out at a soul level what's our higher learning and lesson, and why is it still playing out? Why is it relevant in our current life?
Yeah, that'd be a good question, wouldn't it? Yeah.
It's like so many healers these days. They have incredible skills as healers, but they stay small. They stay in the background. They don't talk about what they do. You know, they fear putting themselves out on social media or in websites, and it's because often in a past life they have had lifetimes where they have been healers, but they were persecuted or killed for it,
Yeah, so
or
the
they were
difference is
shunned.
bigger.
Yeah,
Mm.
or they were shunned. So when we find where it comes from, we not only release it from our multidimensional DNA and our current DNA, we also then find, well, what's my soul higher learning and lesson from that lifetime, and how is it relevant for me now? And then we claim our power as beings of light, and we instruct our DNA to release it. We thank it for protecting us, all right, for holding on to that, to protect us, and say, don't ever let that happen again,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Stay small, don't be seen, or you'll be ostracized or persecuted or burnt at the stake, or whatever else might have happened in another lifetime. And we say that was appropriate for that lifetime, but I don't need to hang on to this anymore. And I instruct my body to release it and let it go. So it's very powerful and instructive, but it's also in the inquiry of why did my soul choose that lifetime and the way that went? What was my soul's intention of my higher learning and lesson? And so we get messages in between lives. So we will leave that lifetime and rise above it. And as a hypnotherapist, it's very much a deeper state of hypnosis than regular tapping. We know with regular tapping, the brainwaves go into the subconscious range, but this seems to be a much deeper level and a soul level when we then rise above and we go all the way up into the light, into and ask the master beings of light, what's my higher learning and lesson from that lifetime, and how do I apply it for me in this lifetime? And then we tap it
Absolutely
in.
amazing.
Yeah, and then we tap it in, right? So we don't just get it. We don't just get the higher learning and lesson. We apply it. We activate it into our current DNA, and we have it speak to the blueprint of the stem cells. So that's where it's really, really powerful, where it can shift and turn on and off DNA genes. So it's very powerful when we release fear-based patterns from our DNA, it shifts everything. And once we apply that new learning and lesson, and we've released what was that fear-based pattern that was in place, we then take it out into the future in our current life. So we see ourselves in the future walking around with this new pattern that is activated, this new belief. And we see how we behave with this new belief and how others around us behave in response to the way we are now with this new behavior. And then when we see that future in hypnosis, we call that future pacing. When we see that future and then we bring it back and activate that future in us now, we are then magnetically drawn to that future. And when we get there, we have a sense of deja vu. So we say all of that in the tapping, knowing that when I get there, I'll have a sense of deja vu, having already imprinted my energy there. And so
Right.
it's very, very powerful. And I've seen spontaneous remissions. I've seen I've seen healing abilities from other lifetimes. Like we can go there not to just to heal, but to also go and get the good stuff. You know, mining the Akash means going into your personal Akashic records and bringing back the good stuff, the experiences where we had lifetimes of joy and bliss and rewards and ease and abundance. And we can bring those back, or lifetimes where you were a writer or a leader, and bring those back.
Mm.
So not just go and see them, but re-experience them, and then bring the experience of that back into us now.
Mm.
So
Fantastic.
that's where I remember seeing one lady when she came for a personal session, when we, back in the days where we did a lot of in-person sessions. Um, and I was in the US. She traveled from Canada to see me, and we imbued and embedded this healing hands. She had hands-on healing abilities in another lifetime, and we brought that experience back and tapped it into her current body. Now, she was in the room with me, and as we tapped that in, when you have like a TENS machine attached to you and all the muscles start twitching
Yep.
involuntarily, that's
Yep.
what started happening in her arms. So they were twitching uncontrollably while she was in a state of hypnosis, as we transferred those hands-on healing abilities into her current DNA, and it was twitching away like mad. And so I actually got to see it, and you don't often get to see that transfer like that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But
Mm.
Jen, what initially led you to develop or to specialize in the quantum EFT? Was there a particular moment in your life or your experiences that sort of moved you towards this method?
Well, there was a series of things, I guess. So, like most people will recognize in their lifetime a pathway that they go down with experience after experience that then heads them to that point where they go, this is what I'm meant to be doing. So I was an occupational therapist for over 30 years. And after I'd had my first child, I went back to work doing 2 days a week, purely relaxation therapy. So stress management relaxation therapy, which was a lot of imagery, a lot of hypnosis, really. So I got really good at it.
Mm.
And I saw anxiety disappear. These were hardcore anxiety clients that doctors attached to a hospital would send to me because I was getting great results with them. So that was the first step that I felt I'm really good at this. Then, after my mother died suddenly, I started reading a lot of spiritual books and near-death experience books, and went down more the spiritual pathway rather than organized church religions. And from there, I read Many Lives, Many Masters, and I really wanted to do past life regression hypnotherapy. Um, when I was working as an occupational therapist, the universe gave me a back injury and I had spinal surgery. And while I was recovering from that spinal surgery, my Reiki master came to see me to do some healing. And she said, "What have you been doing?" And I said, "Oh, I've just been lying here reading books, and I just read Many Lives, Many Masters again. And I really would like to do past life regression and hypnotherapy." And she said, "Oh, my sister's just done a course," and it wasn't far from me. It was in an area where I went to private school, so I knew the area well. And all of a sudden, I'm booked into this hypnotherapy course. Now, at the same time, my husband had left, and our marriage had broken up. So my mother died, marriage broke up, back injury, into the spirituality, and I went out with a guy for a little while who was also very spiritual, and he said, "Oh, I've got a really great mate that teaches past life regression." Next thing you know, I'm talking to him and I'm doing a past life regression course. So I was very led.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and I have a chapter in my first book, Tapping into Past Lives, that is all about this story. And there's a chapter also called All About the Synchronicities that led me to where I went. So then a few months after my marriage broke up, I met this guy who was 10 years younger than me, only in the area for a little while because he was training with the Navy. And when we met, there was an instant connection like I'd never had with anyone. And we were together for 2 months. And during that time, we both decided to do a past life regression together. And I discovered in that past life regression that the one that I went to was I was living in a plantation home in Atlanta, Georgia. My father was a governor or someone of importance in that area. He wore a white sort of military type suit. And I was married and pregnant, and my husband was going to fight in the Civil War. And he promised me that he would return, but he was killed. And
Mm.
so what I discovered was that there was soul promises, because when he came back in this life, the first thing he said to me was, "Don't get attached, I'm not here for long." Right? But it
Mm.
was like he was fulfilling a soul promise to
Mm.
be here, because he said he'd come back. And so he came back, but this time he said, "I'm not here for long, don't get attached." All right. But also in that lifetime, I discovered I had I was an only child, and there was a Negro child that was from one of the workers that he and I played together, and we became great mates. And I taught him to read, which my father frowned upon, but it kept me out of his hair, so he let me do what I wanted to do with this little boy whose name was George. And I went on to teach many others, but I had to do it on the side and in secret because it wasn't the thing that I was allowed to do.
Mm.
And so I learned from that lifetime that I was good at teaching, but the lesson was that now I don't have to do it in secret. I don't have to hide anymore.
Mm. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
I guess a
yeah,
question that comes to me is, how do we know it's real?
yes.
How do you
So
know that?
it's really interesting because that was one of the first things that I I became aware of, is that our left brain will say, "Oh, I just made it up," or that's a load of whatever. Um, and left brain's very good at doing that, at questioning. And the next morning after our past life regressions with this guy, he said, "Oh, maybe I was just making it all up. My imagination's really good." And I said, "You said Cromwell's soldiers have come to the village, and when I saw him in hypnosis, he was shaking with the cold. It was cold. It was Scotland. It was damp. All the men from the village had gone to go and fight, and then Cromwell's soldiers came, and he, as a small young boy, had to fight. It was only old men and small boys left to fight, and he was killed. But I saw him shivering with cold in the hypnosis. And afterwards, I said to him, when he said, "Oh, maybe I made it all up," I said, "You said Cromwell soldiers were here." And he goes to me, "Who's Cromwell?" So it was so funny because his left brain had questioned it all, but his left brain knew nothing about Cromwell. And back then, we didn't have Google, we had
Yeah.
encyclopedias. So I looked it up in the encyclopedia and showed him, and he goes, "Oh, maybe I didn't make it up, right?"
Yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
think too, there's probably an essence or a wisdom within that you somehow know when
Mm,
something's real. Yeah.
mm. And that's the other thing, is that when we're working in a quantum state, and with our quantum DNA and our guides and higher self, there is a deeper experience and a deeper knowing. It's like left brain does get pushed aside a little bit more. Um, and when we're asking our guides and our higher self or divine source, whatever you want to call it, God, where does this come from? What's my higher learning and lesson? And they're in a deeper state of trance or subconscious range. amazing wisdom comes through them. And I've had people whose voice changes, especially when we bring in other souls. For example, when someone was a leader of a battalion in a war and led them to war, and a lot of their company was killed, and they felt guilt from that. Like, don't ever put your hand up to be a leader again, right?
Mm.
But what we do is, at a soul level, we rise above that, and we rise above with all the souls that are dying, that have died. And then we get, or sometimes we'll go to the soul planning meeting that they all plan together to do that for the higher learning and lesson of humanity, or for their own higher learning and lesson and their own soul karmic journey. So we get the soul overview and the learning and the lesson, and it's very easy then to release the guilt. That's like, at a soul level, all is well. This is how we planned it to be, not only for my learning and lesson, but they each had their own learning and lesson as to why they planned that for themselves, why they put their hand up to say, lead me into battle and let me die, right?
Okay, so are you saying we choose when we die?
Yeah, we choose our
And-
soul. We choose our soul, or we plan beforehand. We have soul planning meetings where we plan our soul journey. And of course, when we get here, we have free choice, but usually we have other contingents. I I follow the teachings of Cryon, which is a channeled energy that is here to help humanity. And Cryon says, um, you'll never understand it with your human mind, because we're in a three-dimensional body, and a lot of the multidimensional quantum states are hidden from us. But to know that our soul understands what's going on, and our soul planned this, and at a human level, if we can trust that our soul knows what it's doing, that we might not be able to see past our left brain and our fear, but to trust that our soul knows, and to
Mm.
ask our guides and higher self and our soul to help the human parts of us to relax into it, and to know that at a soul level all is well. We're all going to die. We're all going to come back. Um, but it's the experience and the lessons that we want to be able to step into. And Cryon talks about our window of opportunity at a soul level to now step through this lesson and to release that karmic pattern.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah, it's a whole new world almost, isn't it? Or a new way of
Mm.
acceptance or looking at life. Um, if EFT works with the subconscious, and quantum EFT would work with deeper levels of the subconscious or of the psyche or the energetic fields, is
Yeah, and the
that
soul,
reasonable?
it works very much more in a quantum state. So when we're encouraging and speaking to our quantum DNA, which Cryon talks about is our 24th chromosome that has been melded in a quantum state to our 23rd chromosome, that we have this quantumness that is attached to us, and we're particularly speaking to that part of us, our multidimensional DNA, our quantum DNA, and our soul, like what's going on at a soul level here that is affecting me, my human body, and my current DNA, and our subconscious. So I guess we're speaking to our consciousness, which is 5% of behavior. We're speaking to our subconsciousness. We're speaking to that super consciousness, ourselves out there in the field. We're speaking to guides and higher self, our divinity. And we're combining all of that. So quantum EFT looks at all pieces and parts of who we are as a soul, as a human being. And because of that, it's very, very powerful. I mean, EFT is powerful. But
Mm.
quantum EFT is a whole deeper, expanded level. And it's more about understanding who we really are and why did we put our hand up to experience this trauma that perhaps we might have had. And obviously you can't do that while you're in a state of trauma, right? So it's about releasing the trauma first and then going, okay, now let me step back and look at this from a soul perspective.
Okay, and that's quite applicable to today because it appears the world's quite chaotic, and um, a
Mm.
question might be, why did we choose to be here in this time?
And Cryon talks about it. This is the change or the shift of humanity, and that the darkness is, the dark energy is doing a last minute kick and fight and tantrum and scream because it's really when you shine more light on the world, the darkness is more seen. All right,
Right.
because
Yeah, it's
we're
more
shining
visible.
the light on it. It's more visible now. And
Mm.
so we have this illusion that there's more darkness, but it's only because we're shining the light on it now. Before we were in the dark to the darkness.
Okay,
Mm.
so is it fair, do you think, that with all, I mean, I've known EFT since the mid 90s with Gary Craig, and
Mm.
is it fair to say with these sorts of techniques and your cryon and so on becoming more known, that people are changing more, that we are looking to the light more?
Yeah, and we're looking more at who am I in all of this?
Mm,
Right? What is my purpose? What is my role? What is my intention? What lights me up? What brings me fear? And a lot more people are learning to look at what technique is going to help me release my fears so that I can step into my true soul purpose and what lights me up and what I like to do
mm,
without fear holding me back.
mm, So can I just ask, for someone dealing with grief, with fear
Mm-hmm.
of illness, because there's a lot of illness around now,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
or emotional overwhelm, how might your quantum EFT support this healing journey for them?
Well, it's always very individual to the individual, right? And so that's what's so good about quantum EFT. It's not some tapping script that we just put out there. It's about how's that for you? When has grief come up for you? When has fear come up from you? What stories or news articles have come up for you that have triggered you? Where has that come from in the past? Asking guides and higher self, where does it come from? And it can be really interesting where it all comes from. But it all starts with what was the most recent trigger for you with grief or with fear or with health or I remember working with one lady who was in stage 4 of ovarian cancer. It was everywhere in her body, right? But she still wanted to know where all of this came from. And when we did a private session, um, and I had already noticed with her that she'd had a statement that pricked my ears up, you might say, when she said, "Oh, I can't stand seeing pregnant women. It makes me feel sick. I want to vomit," right? And so when she got ovarian cancer, I've gone, okay, let's do a session and find out where this comes from. And where it went back to was she was raped in a past life and had to have the baby. And so every time she looked down and saw her own pregnant stomach, it reminded her of that rape and how angry she was and how helpless she was and how she had to live with that, basically. So we
Mm,
release that once and for all at a soul and body and energetic level, knowing that in her future lives she wouldn't have to carry that anymore. And we took away the fear of death because she was moving quite quickly towards death.
mm,
Um, and so we brought in the soul higher learning and lesson and the joy of moving to the other side and the experience of being in life between lives and she was actually looking forward to it. So once you go into quantum EFT and you experience with past life regression and hypnotherapy as well in the workshops, you experience many lifetimes and the moving over from that death scene into the light and into the higher learning and lesson and the relief and the joy and the peace after each life. It's like, why would I fear that?
Yeah, okay. That's really good to hear,
Mm,
actually. Um,
mm.
but how many lives do we do? Do we just keep coming
Yeah,
back forever?
yeah. Well, Cryon, I remember one channel in Cryon did, it was awesome. He went on for I don't know how many minutes talking about all these people in the room. There were lawyers, there were doctors, there were artists, there were, he went on explaining all these different people in the room that were from all walks of life. And then he goes, that's you. That's your soul. That's how many experiences you've had and how many lifetimes. And it's like thousands, he says. Oh, we're mostly all old souls because we all wanted to be back here at this time to see the shift, to be here for the shift, to facilitate the shift.
Right. And the shift is happening now? It's in
Yes,
the process
yes,
of?
yes. And he says it's not, now as in a specific moment in time. It's a process over 50 years or so,
Mm,
where the shift is definitely occurring.
mm,
People are being called out for things now. I
mm.
think, was it you that sent me something this morning, Molly, about Prince Edward? Somebody did.
No, no, it wasn't me. But yeah, he's lost his titles, hasn't he?
Yeah, people are now being called out for bad behavior.
Mm, mm.
Right?
Yeah, that's
And
quite a change.
action is being taken. And that's never happened before. There
Agree.
are a lot more whistleblowers that are now stepping out into the light and saying, actually, that's not how it is. This
Yeah.
is how it is. So there's a lot more people now standing up for their beliefs and putting fear aside, and a lot more whistleblowers. So yeah, I think we are living in exciting times. And not to focus on the darkness, but to
Mm.
focus on what is being revealed and action being taken about that's not okay.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Instead of focusing on the chaos or the negativity,
Yes.
look for the light within and the good things in life because it's a real
Mm-hmm.
gift to be here, really.
Mm, mm. And yeah, and it's like while you're here, who am I really? Why did I come back this time? What are the soul learnings and lessons that I set up for myself? And what karmic patterns do I want to release so that I'm not carrying them through into the next life?
Mm, mm. And you deal with all of this in your course,
Yeah, so I run a quantum EFT workshop maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I've
right?
got one coming up in November, but I haven't made the times for next year yet, but probably from March on. But also you can get a free PDF copy of my first book, Tapping into Past Lives, just by signing up on my homepage, quantumeft.com.au. And then the second book has transcripts. It's a lot thicker because it's word for word transcripts of many sessions. What I said, what they said.
Mm,
Um,
that'd be fascinating.
yeah, and then there's also, I think it's quantumeft.com.au book extra, where you can get all the videos from both books of actual sessions,
Oh, gosh.
as well as I have a YouTube channel called EFT Australia, which is just one word. And in that YouTube channel, there is a playlist about past lives. So you'll see people talking about their past life after a past life regression, or there's some sessions where people have had individual past life regressions. So they're in hypnosis and they agree to share their video.
Mm.
There's also in the second book some examples of past planetary lives.
Oh gosh,
right?
that would be interesting to me. I love things
Yeah,
like
yeah. There's
that.
one called Chandra where she said my skin is blue. I'm a priestess on Arcturus, and she lives in an alabaster tower. It's and yeah, just amazing. And she wears a crystal robe, and the
Oh,
crystals amplify her message to the people. It's just beautiful. But I get goosebumps even just thinking about it, because it's a different space and a different energy that we're in when they're in that space of hypnosis, and when they're getting higher learning and lesson. Or sometimes we bring in souls of departed loved ones. I worked recently with a lady whose husband died, and we brought in the soul of her husband, and her voice changed when his message came through. And it was him speaking to her, and it was powerful and beautiful. And when people get these messages from the higher learning and lesson, from their guides, master guides, their whole energy changes when they're speaking, and there's so much wisdom and love and power in their messages, and it's not just for them, it's for humanity. And so I feel very privileged to be in those spaces.
mm, yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
It's amazing. So when the husband's soul came in, she
mhm.
was speaking his words. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And her voice changed as she did that.
Mm,
Gosh.
yeah. So yeah, very powerful. And he had died unexpectedly, and there was stuff with the will that he hadn't signed, and there was stuff that was very difficult for her to go through, and he apologized and said, I'm sorry, I left you in a mess, and I'm sending help from the other side, he said.
Oh,
Hang in there. It's yeah, and amazingly enough, 2 days later, help arrived from the other side, just out of the blue. So many people that I work with, and that my certified quantum EFT practitioners work with, they tell me of these miracles that occur, within days, sometimes hours of doing a quantum EFT session, where something that they thought was impossible shifted and changed.
mm,
Mm. So I love that. And people come back with, the next session, oh, this miracle happened. Yeah. It's like, it's like they go, yeah, I know you don't expect it, but it was a miracle for me, because that
yeah,
came right out of the blue. And so miracles become sort of ordinary, everyday expectations for me in
yeah.
in these in these things. Like the next week when I go back, it's like, how have you been since your session? Well, that stuff we worked on is all gone. Now I've got this that's come up.
Mm,
That's why I always recommend at least a 3-session package, because we're peeling back onion layers.
yeah. And things, as you move something, other things do come up too, don't
Yeah,
they? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So it's powerful work. I love it. And what I love at the moment is that I'm really allowing others who resonate with this work to helping them go through the certification process, and then they go out and work with other people. I'm not going to be on this planet forever, and it's like it's great that this technique is out there and is spreading through
Mm,
other practitioners. So on my website, I've got to find a practitioner page, and there's I think 12 or more. There's a couple more coming through in November, of practitioners from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US.
mm.
Um, so,
So
yeah.
you have your basic course to teach quantum EFT, and then you do a practitioner course by the
Well, it's actually, you do the same course, you repeat it,
right.
and then you do it a third time. You do the demonstration day and the practice days a third time, and then you do all the case studies, and then there's about 50 videos, quantum EFT videos, to watch from the quantum EFT playlist.
Gosh.
as well as some books. Read both my books, and a book that that's through the Cryon series, which is from Monica, called The Human Akash, um, so that you get to understand and listen to certain cryon channelings, so that you get to understand all the principles behind it,
Mm,
behind what quantum EFT is all about. Because
mm,
it's about working in time and space, not just past lives, but it's also, it's the underlying theme is what's going on at a soul level here. Yeah.
mm,
As well as releasing trauma energetically and physically and emotionally, but it's also working in time and space. So if your mother, like that client, mother was raped and was pregnant and fearful and angry and all the rest, then you step back in time and work on mum while you're in utero.
mm.
So you're
Amazing.
working in time and space. Sometimes we work with future lives. Mm. So it's quite amazing, because when, as Cryon says, when you're focused on a time, you're in the now. It's not past, it's not future, it's now. And when you're in the now energy of something, that's when you change all the energy around it. And if there's other people in that energy, then they get shifted too. Because if you release a karmic pattern between you and them,
Mm.
then they shift all of a sudden.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
And I've had many, many examples of clients ringing me up or seeing me the next week saying, just after we did that and we released them from this karmic thing, and we asked their guides and higher self to help them focus on their soul journey and da 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 da. And then the next day they get an email from their ex-partner saying, you don't have to worry about me. This is my stuff. I'm going to do it. You go on your, like almost exact words to what we asked for.
Mm.
And so I'm not surprised by it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is amazing. I'll just tell you a little story.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the early 80s, when I did my first personal development course,
Mm-hmm.
and they were quite extensive. They'd go through till 2 and 3 a.m. in the morning on the weekend workshops. And we did one process where we had to imagine that we
Mm-hmm.
had all the people around us that we had either said something or done something that had harmed them, or they had done or said something that harmed us. And you
Mm-hmm.
just go around the circle speaking to each one, and
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness and, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I went home and my mother was staying with us to look after the children. When we got up the next morning, the Saturday morning, she said to me, I had this really strange dream. She said, I dreamt all these friends and family members were standing in a circle and you were talking to them. And it really freaked me out because she knew nothing of what I was doing, but
Mm-hmm.
yet she had somehow connected
Mm-hmm.
energetically with
Yeah.
what I had been doing. So that changed everything for me in how I thought about
Yeah.
who we are and what we are doing here.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
back in the early 80s.
Yeah. And that's what I love about being in that sort of space with quantum EFT every time. It's very hard to stay clinical EFT once you've gone quantum. It's
Mm,
very hard to not be in that quantum space and that soul learning and lesson. Um, and I still teach clinical EFT,
right.
because I love that as well. I teach that with EFT Universe,
Mm,
but it's the quantum state and the soul level, um, quantum EFT, that is where my passion is.
it certainly sounds like it. Yeah, I love
Mm,
EFT as well. It's an amazing technique.
mm,
Amazing. Yeah.
mm, yeah,
Jenny, thank you so much for sharing so much with us today. Your insights into the quantum EFT and energy healing, I guess, can give us
mm,
just so much hope and just so many possibilities that we can move into.
yeah,
I think if anyone watching finds that Jenny's works resonated with you, I truly encourage you to make contact and do explore it further. And see how quantum EFT might support your personal journey in
Mm,
healing or just in living and finding out who you are today.
mm. And thanks, Molly. And I'd encourage your listeners, if they've got questions, don't hesitate to contact me. I've got a free 15-minute chat appointment, and I'm happy to chat to people for 15 minutes. Just go to quantumeft.com.au. If you want my free PDF, just sign up and I'll send it to you. But yeah, chat to me if you want to have any sessions. I'll offer your listeners the discount price, which is usually what is reserved for my EFT Universe students, is the discount price, not the full price for any sessions. And the same if anyone ever wants to do a workshop, which involves past life regressions and mining the Akashic regressions, as well as quantum EFT, they can register for the discount price too, which is usually just for my students.
It's very generous, Jen. Thank you. Thank you
No
very much.
worries. You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Molly. Great to chat again.
Yes, lovely to catch up. Yeah. And as always, here on the healing path, we are walking beside you, hand in hand, one breath, one insight, one small shift at a time. And thank you for joining us. Take gentle care of your heart, and we'll see you again soon.